All right. If you're listening in on the iHealth Radio, this is Hurricane H, broadcasting live from Philadelphia, and we are here at Reboot and with Stephen O, and we're going to be talking about medical cannabis and its integration in medical and the Medicare and the healthcare field, and how that integration happens. And we'll be asking some questions, so stay tuned. In about 1 minute, we'll go on and just listen in and see what's going on. And that's about it. You can start with that one, the top one. So that's it, it's red. This we have, I can edit, so. All right.
You're gonna give me this?
Because you'll be answering the question. I'll scream.
Mm-hmm. Put it right there?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Must be tough doing kickboxing with this.
She does the head.
She does that too. 'Cause you're sweating,
All right, so we have a little chit chat here right now at the live feed here on the radio, and we're about to go live on actually the iHealth channel and iHealth Radio video on the websites. This is also broadcasting right now in YouTube and Periscope. So if you have any of those channels, you can. If you do have the Roku TV or Amazon Fire Stick, you can also go to Boxcast TV and download the iHealth channel. You'll be able to see this feed right live. So, and this will be also replayed on the station as well as on the websites. So that being said, we're gonna be live in a minute. Well, we're live with Steve-O, and we're here at Reboot in Philadelphia, and we're gonna talk about what Reboot is, what kind of services they offer. It's an integrated wellness center.
Correct.
So they have different services. I'm Hurricane H. This is the iHealth channel. And if you're listening in, you're on iHealth Radio. Stephen O with us here, and he's our guest of honor, and he'll be answering some questions, shedding light on some of the big questions that you might have about cannabis in general, and we'll talk about some acupuncture and maybe even talk about some physical therapy and the impact of Corona right now.
You have to redo it because somehow it stopped. I don't know why.
What?
It's showing your thing.
Oh no, that's fine. That's the pre.
They can only see the preview, it looks like.
It's okay.
I can't see you guys.
It should come out.
You have to press live for me. Ready?
All right, so sorry guys, we had to reset ourselves here. Again, let me do this again.
It happens.
We're here at Reboot in Philadelphia with Stephen O, and we are at Reboot Integrated Wellness Center, and this is a facility where they do multiple services including physical therapy,
Physical therapy.
acupuncture, and of course, their main, product and or inclination to the medical cannabis. And today we're going to talk about it's a big myth. It's a lot of questions about cannabis. Everybody's like, wow, that's not, right. What's going on? Is it legal? Is it not legal? What's the difference? All those questions, hopefully we'll be able to answer today in this particular show. And we have the expert, the man himself. He knows this. He's been doing this for a while. He's actually one of the first, if not the first, actually, dispensary in Philadelphia.
To open in Philadelphia,
To open in Philadelphia, yeah. So one of the cutting edge folks, and you get it from the source here. So again, as our mission, I'm Hurricane H. This is the iHealth channel, and as I said earlier, if you're watching this, broadcast, it's also you can watch this on Roku TV. You can watch it on Amazon Fire TV, and this is something that's going to be recorded and replayed. So anyone that wants the information can go back to it. It's also on YouTube and Periscope right now, and we are live also on iHealth Radio. On the online channel, on our radio station. So that being said, Steve, tell me a little bit about just Reboot in general, and then we'll go down into
Sure, yeah. First of all, Sham, thank you so much for this invitation.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's great to be here and to be able to at least convey to you guys what we do and what we're excited about, what our mission and vision is. Maybe I can start with my background.
Yeah, definitely.
And
give
then,
us a little bit about your background, and then how it all stared.
Sure, and then kind of
we'll deep dive down.
go down chronologically.
This is not actually, we have a structure of this, but we'll do it as a talk. So it's gonna be a little coffee talk. So we got our little Mug's here with the little tea. So I'm gonna have my own sip here.
That's right.
Little levity on the show. So we're here. I mean, it's a very unique time, actually. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
But as you know, this is actually live, and we're like day 2 under the 15 days of recommended, stay home, guidance from the president. And so we're trying to discuss this topic, which was pre-planned, but we also will have a minute to talk about the conditions today and how it's impacting, Reboot.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. This is happening in real time for sure. Actually, our company Reboot is closed for the next 2 weeks, so we are feeling the impact. But I think it's the right thing to do. It's a great social responsibility on our part to make sure that we not spread this epidemic more than it will. It's interesting times right now. So. Yeah. But let me start with just a little bit about my background. I started as a physical therapist, been in clinical practice for, almost about 17 years now. I can't believe it. Time flies. During that time, I eventually became involved in the area of wound care. A lot of people don't associate physical therapy with wound care, but it is a specialty within the discipline, and really got very deep into that industry and field and specialty. Did that for a good, I want to say about 10 years of my clinical practice. I found it extremely interesting because one thing you realize when practicing wound care is that what you're ultimately delving into is the fundamentals of how our body heals. Whether it's a wound or whether it's a sports injury or whether it's an insult in the brain, you're dealing with trauma, and the underlying mechanisms are relatively the same. Understanding that, the principles and the technicalities of wound care really gave me an idea of what is the basis of healing itself, which is really, I think, very invaluable to me as a physical therapist. And then as I kind of went further in my career, I realized that, and this was something that I wanted to do from the very beginning, is integrate holistic health and wellness into the kind of, I guess what you could call the rigid, kind of linear thinking, mechanical thinking of physical therapy. There's really not much room in physical therapy. It's very mechanical and biomechanical, I should say, based. But my ultimate decision was to go into Eastern medicine, and there's a whole litany of disciplines that you can go into with Eastern medicine. But ultimately, I decided that acupuncture was the most relevant for me, particularly because it blends well with physical therapy, as you could imagine. So I went to acupuncture school and blended those two art forms together, and I'm thankful that I did, because I think the outcomes that we can achieve with both physical therapy and acupuncture, I think, can really raise the bar in terms of health and wellness. And then ultimately, I realized that if I don't start a private practice soon, with a family and a mortgage, and it may be too late. So in 2015, my partners and we started Reboot Integrative Wellness Center, and with the vision of blending, all these holistic disciplines of physical therapy, your traditional allied health professions, and then complementing that with chiropractic, as well as Eastern healing arts like acupuncture and cupping. And then also, and you can cut me off and ask me anything you want, but
I don't want to cut your tongue.
I'm on a roll here, Hisham. I'm on a roll here.
I'm going to keep up with you.
So, and this will lead into what we'll be discussing for the most part, is that within the paradigm of acupuncture, it lies within a medical system called traditional Chinese medicine. And in that, there is a large usage of herbal medicines, of these natural botanicals that have been used for quite some time in history. I mean, if you look back at the archives of medicines around the world, I mean, traditional Chinese medicine is one of the original founders of how our bodies, and it's really, if you go into the pharmacopoeias of traditional pharmacies, you find that many of the products we see today were rooted in traditional Chinese herbs or Oriental herbs or herbs around the world.
Yeah. Well, I just not in the same aspect. I mean, I've also been doing martial arts all my life, and so I've been kind of inclined a little bit to the I guess culture itself, and I've had actually used some of the traditional ointments and things like that for pain and for other things, especially when you're in fighting mode or you're doing a competition. There's some things that you can use, and my professors have always given us that indicator as that's where you need to be. I mean, there is the modern medicine and the drugs.
Sure,
and,
they have this place.
Exactly, but those things did help and work for me, and I would recommend them anytime.
Yeah.
And I do see value in what we're going to talk about today. So definitely, I'm in line with you, and I think a lot of folks may not know the impacts and the utilization and the use of all these ancient, and traditional medicines and elixirs, whatever you want to call them, and ointments. Yeah. And today we'll talk about the newest, and more, I guess, focused on topic.
Yeah, of course. And then with the interest of these natural botanicals, it kind of naturally led us into understanding the world of cannabis-based medicine. And fortunately for us, and the timing really went well. In 2016, Governor Wolf signed into law Act 16, which was the medical marijuana program here in Pennsylvania. And with that, me and a few team members of ours, we pursued a license to be able to dispense this medication.
Was that a hard process to get that
Unbelievably difficult, especially since I was running this practice here at Reboot and trying to check off all the bucket list of items that the state needed and required in order to be a candidate for it. And fortunately for us, we were able to secure one of the 3 licenses in Philadelphia. The company was called Restore Integrative Wellness Center. We actually have a dispensary right across the street. I'm no longer with the company, I should say that as a disclaimer, but I'm one of the co-founders of Restore. And it was a true honor to be able to inaugurate that and introduce that to the larger public here in Philadelphia and educate the greater Philadelphia community about what medical cannabis is and its real potential, at least for me, in its application within the therapy and rehab world. And we use a lot of topical-based, not medical cannabis, but CBD ointments, which is we can talk about what CBD is. It's a cannabinoid naturally derived from the cannabis plant, non-psychoactive, and we utilize that here in this clinic quite oftenly and promote it as a great anti-inflammatory and an analgesic, pain reducer for a lot of our patients.
So, since you mentioned
Yeah.
that, I do want to say this. I mean, Steve and I, we actually had the opportunity to work together and meet, over a year ago, as I was working at a health plan, and the services that they provide here, we were able to contract with them as a provider, and we wanted to actually bring some of these services to our members, and mainly the senior market, and how the impact, especially for pain management and some chronic, instances, and they'll tell us more about those types of,
of course,
medical conditions where your practice and your services can be beneficial.
It's well, I think a good place to start, especially when we're trying to kind of delve into this interesting world of medical cannabis, which seems new to us, but it's been around for quite some time.
California has been in action for 20 years.
Well, they were definitely the first state, and really a brave stepping stone to being able to kind of be able to permeate this into the mainstream healthcare model throughout the states. I think we have about 34 states. The Pennsylvania was the 24th state to be able to issue it.
New York actually, it's up and running. I think Jersey is actually just happened or just about to happen.
They've had a medical model. I think they're trying to legalize it at this point. So is New York. But even before California, you look into the archives of traditional Chinese herbal medicine, and it was documented. I think 3000 BC, there was an emperor Shen Nung who documented its use, and they would call it dama, which basically in Chinese means the big num. So that makes you realize that what it does. That's what they realized that it could be clinically indicated for. So you think about how far its usage has been, and we're just now catching up. Although the U.S. did have it in its U.S. pharmacopoeia in the 1950s. Surprisingly, you'll see some old pictures of these elixirs of cannabis that people would use it for headaches and menstrual cramps and pain and sleep. But of course, it became politicized in the early 1930s. There was a racist component to it, which we can talk about if we want. But ultimately, we did the right thing to medicalize it, to kind of bring it above ground into the hands of healthcare providers, so that the healthcare system can really own it and safely produce it and dispense it to patients. And I think that's really critical for patients that want to know what they get is what they're really getting, as opposed to the underground market, which it's a free-for-all,
So we refer to it as medical cannabis, but there is a big, no taboo when you say marijuana.
Yeah. Yes.
So, is it the same? Is it the same plant? And I know you talked about the CBD component of it, and we see a lot of stores in the malls and all over the place now that are popping up.
Yeah.
And even in pharmacies, they have those products. So give us a little bit of a transition between what the marijuana plant is, or the cannabis plant, and then how it works in terms of the bottom line and how it becomes approved, legalized. Well, if for the states that are legal, obviously, and then hopefully for the states that will, pretty much adopt it.
Yeah, in terms of the actual, word of marijuana and cannabis, they're technically interchangeable. Some people feel like marijuana, the word marijuana, has too much of a stigma attached to it. There's the whole the war on drugs, kind of stigmatized marijuana as being kind of a gateway drug, and really being a plant, a drug that quote unquote losers and drug addicts would use, and that was so far from the truth. And if you go farther than that, there were political officials and there was an individual who owned a newspaper company, William Randolph Hearst, who utilized it to sensationalize marijuana, where I think the headline at the time in the 1930s was that Mexicans and blacks were using marijuana to rape white women. I mean, it was that vulgar, and really misdirected the public in what this plant really is.
We came a long way, though.
Came a very long way, and we still got a long way to go, for sure.
Some countries are ahead of us. I mean, the Netherlands. I mean, they're the number one in the world. I mean, they've been already in the game a long time. Right?
They have been. That social experiment, I think, for the most part, was very successful. Portugal's another country. And I think because we are conservative for the most part as a country. We pushing the envelope sometimes scares individuals, and I understand that. But I think a lot of times we have to be able to speak freely and openly with facts and with the right information. With science driving it, evidence-based, and that's what's pushing the envelope of this industry. And it's great to have a medical system because you have professionals driving this industry. The physicians who certify these patients. The pharmacists who would dispense it, and the nurse practitioners and PAs.
So physicians, do they have to have any specific, added education or added, certification to actually get into, dispensing or prescribing these these prescriptions?
Yeah. These, we would call them certifications. They can't technically prescribe it because it's still a Schedule I drug, which puts in the same class as heroin, which and yes, and crystal meth, which to me, it's like talking, having a gun versus a wiffle ball bat. Like it's just there's the dichotomy is just absurd. But yes, that unfortunately. But one thing you should keep in mind though is that every state runs their program very differently. So in this state, the physicians do need to take, as far as I remember, a 4-hour certification course in order to be able to certify. That way they have, which to me is the sad part about the educational system right now regarding the cannabis industry. I mean, I think only 15 to 20% of medical students even understand what cannabis is, and let alone what the endocannabinoid system is, which is really where and why cannabis has an effect in our bodies. It's this wonderful system in our bodies that allows us to take advantage all the benefits of cannabis, whether it's inflammation, improved appetite, improved sleep, improved mood. I mean, there's a litany of things.
Perfect segue.
Yeah.
Why don't you guide us through, how does it work in the body? I mean, in general. So you have, first of all, what is the actual product itself? I mean, we know the plants, and you've mentioned the actual, and I can't even pronounce the term.
I'll say it again a few times. Yeah.
And so you get the actual extract, and that's the actual product that you use in the marketplace. But then, how does that impact, and what parts of the human body that it has impact on, what uses maybe can be beneficial?
Yeah, there's a lot there. And we can dissect it a little bit.
We have plenty of time, so
of course. Yeah. So let's dive in a little bit. So let's begin, I guess, biologically within ourselves. I mean, we have this wonderful system that they uncovered not too long ago, in the 80s and 90s, called the endocannabinoid system, and that's derived from endocannabinoids, which, like many chemicals in our own bodies, are self-produced. Whether they're endorphins or certain neurotransmitters in our bodies, insulin, for example, or hormone. These are produced within our own bodies, and we also have these endocannabinoids that are produced in our own bodies that are very similar to what we find, or at least the actions, the mechanisms and actions are very similar to what we find in the cannabis plant. And this endocannabinoid system, it's an ancient system. It's been around and predates human beings. 500 plus million years ago. It first emerged in early vertebrates. So it's been around a long time, and we're just discovering it. Like that.
Well,
that to
like
me,
a lot of things, yeah.
yeah, like that to me is a really sad state of affairs, because what we don't realize is that the implications of what this system does is really important, you know. And I'm glad that or at least many institutions now are kind of uncovering what this is. And so there are two main endocannabinoids in our own bodies. One is called anandamide. These are real technical jargons, so I apologize. But
they're recorded, so you can always
yes,
catch on back to them.
yeah. But but these are two very important chemicals. Like, if you're understanding what the brain does, you have to understand what serotonin does and what, you know, dopamine does. You know, these are just as important within our own bodies. And primarily, what this system does is helps balance our system. So a popular term to describe what the system does is that it brings us to homeostasis. So and this is this resonates a lot with me in traditional Chinese medicine, because the idea of homeostasis is so important with the art of the yin and yang. You know, you have to have a balance.
Okay.
You know, can't be too cold, can't be too hot. You know, you can't have too much, you can't have too little. There's got to be a good balance.
Everything,
you know,
do moderation and balance.
Yes, yeah, and then you find that in traditional medicine as well. You know, you look at your lab values. You can't have too much. You know, your blood glucose levels can't be too much, can't be too high. You know, your inflammatory markers can't be too high, too little. You know, your immune markers can't be too high.
Yeah, it has a bad impact on your body.
Yeah. So it's very important. So that's the driving mechanism of what the system does. So if you realize that, that's a really important system in our bodies. But and I'll just talk about one of these endocannabinoids. One is anandamide, which I mentioned. Interesting enough, this word anandamide in Sanskrit means eternal bliss. You know, so it makes you realize what it's done in our bodies, right? Like it's there to help kind of give us some mood, give us some relaxation, give us some emotional well-being in a lot of ways, and it interacts very, very strongly with our central nervous system. You know, we have these receptors in our brains that it connects with. You know, and it's a really powerful neurotransmitter, essentially, that helps keep our brain in proper order, essentially. And this endocannabinoid system is really important for our immune system as well.
Much needed these days.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, really modulating the inflammatory processes. That's why it's really important for pain modulation, because the inflammatory process is always underlying any pain type of syndrome. So in essence, the endocannabinoid system is a really crucial idea in understanding why cannabis has so many good beneficial effects within our bodies. Where else should we go with that?
Well, so that's the system. Now, again, what is the plant itself? How does that interact with the system, with the actual human body? To create and generate the reaction. Right.
So sometimes we need to be able to supplement our bodies with various outside sources. You know, so and I think it's true in the way we use cannabis as well. So just like we have endocannabinoids, which are self-produced in our bodies, we also have phytocannabinoids, which are cannabinoids produced in the cannabis plant. And the idea is that, and what makes this so complicated is that when we look at the cannabis plant, we don't realize that there are literally hundreds of chemicals within that plant that potentially could be beneficial for us, and scientists are researching all the various chemicals. And what makes it even more complicated is that there are chemicals that if combined with other chemicals in the plant at certain amounts produces a better outcome. You know, and there are these things called terpenes, flavonoids within the plants that help bolster the effects of a lot of these cannabinoids and their effects within our bodies. So you know, that's the job of the industry and the scientists and the researchers to find out what is the most helpful and what is the most beneficial and what do these certain cannabinoids do. The most popular, of course, being THC, that most people here have
Yes,
heard about.
correct, yeah.
You know, that's the that is the chemical that provides the unique psychoactive component of cannabis, which we're all familiar with,
yeah.
or at least I think you're familiar with, right, Hashan?
A little bit.
Allegedly.
Yeah, by practice, by actually industry.
Sure, of course. But you know, there's you know, I think a lot of misconception of, oh, you know, these people, do they just want to get high? And I think that's first of all, the euphoric quality intrinsically in itself could be sometimes very beneficial, you know. And we first start to see that in California in the early, or I would say in the 80s and 90s, especially with wasting disorders like AIDS and cancer, where a lot of these patients utilized cannabis for its THC properties to help reduce nausea, to increase appetite. And this is what a lot of times THC can do for you, to help improve sleep, decrease pain, you know. And fortunately for us, they were able to galvanize themselves and approve Prop 215. The reason why I remember 215 is because Philly area code 215. You know, that's the only reason why.
All right.
But it was called the Compassionate Care Act.
That on purpose? No, just kidding.
Now I wonder. You know, it's for us. But yeah, it's because of them that we realized that THC really has a tremendous benefit for patients, you know, and especially those patients, and for a whole other patient population as well. You see it with Parkinson's patients, patients with neuropathic disorders, neuropathic pain, like patients with MS. So that's THC, you know, and I don't think we should underscore the fact that, you know, even though it does provide a psychoactive effect, and, you know, I think it's important to not do too much, because the psychoactive effect can be incapacitating at times. You ever heard of couch lock? Like, you just can, but that means you've done too much probably, you know?
So to moderations.
Yeah, to moderate.
You have to follow the instructions.
Yeah, and you have to figure out what is right for you. And
is that prescribed? Like, you know, those, you know, what the dosage and all this stuff?
Yeah, through the
it's
pharmacy.
Not up to the person to just, you know, I'd like to have some more because it feels good.
No, you'll have a professional at the dispensary to kind of guide you through the process. There's a saying in the industry: you start low, go slow. You know.
Start low,
yeah,
go slow.
and go slow. You know.
That slogan.
That's right. That's right. But the beauty of cannabis as a medicine is even though you may overdose, you're in no physical danger. You know.
That's important.
That's really important, as opposed to other drugs in the market.
Then it destroys.
Like opiates.
And I was going to ask about, since you mentioned opioids, that's the biggest, you know, topic other than obviously the last month's coronavirus. You know, opioid is an ongoing epidemic, and it's just, you know, it's really bad out there. A lot of states are trying to fight it, and, you know, and everybody's getting to the bed with it. And yet, I have not seen a substitution utilizing, you know, the benefits of cannabis into that. I mean, what do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're still trying to decide whether or not cannabis is a true viable alternative. My gut tells me, of course it is. Of course it is. I mean, it's the risk-benefits ratio of having cannabis as your first line of defense just makes sense. Just the sheer fact of its risk profiles. Sure, there's risk, but there's risk in anything. You know, should have a cup of tea. There's risk in that. You know, the addiction profile is relatively low. I think it's about 7% of patients that have addiction.
But that's providing they actually use the actual product for a longer period of time, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Not just from the first couple of shots, right? Not, you know, if you just do it lightly because of a particular transitional situation that you had, it's not going to be addictive. But if you were like in prolonging, you know,
yeah.
Sort of situation, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think in our current model, especially for pain management, the advice now is to reduce opiate consumption. I think every medical provider would agree that that's probably a good rule of thumb, you know. But we can't just have our patients be in pain, though,
right?
You know, so prescribe them physical therapy, you know, movement therapy.
Which you do here.
That's one line of defense. Yeah. So it's a multifaceted approach. but cannabis should always be on the table as well, is what I think
Yeah,
most proponents of cannabis is that let it be part of the arsenal, part of your war chest of addressing this issue of pain management, and as well as consequently the opiate addiction, the opiate epidemic, which of course was just disastrous from the very get-go as we overprescribed this medication that, literally will shut off your respiratory and cardiac centers. And the beauty of cannabis is that there are no receptor sites in your brainstem that will shut off that have cannabis receptors. So essentially, the more you take, you'll still breathe. You may go unconscious taking too much cannabis, but the reassuring fact is that your respiratory centers will continue to go on. And you don't have that reassurance with a lot of the opiate-based drugs, So yeah, I think it's a viable means to help reduce overdose and addiction of opiates, which is a serious concern for public health and public safety. Yeah.
So we've covered the addiction, levels and what that looks like, and the actual potential use as a substitute or another means as opposed to opioids. And so what's the cost for it? I mean, obviously that's the other
That's a
thing.
good
'Cause
question.
I know, coming from the insurance world,
Yeah.
as you
Yeah.
know, it is a big thing. And I know in the Medicare space, and at least in the federal, government programs, it's not approved, and to cover anything that has to do with CBD or cannabis.
Yeah.
Maybe hopefully, in the next legislation, whatever, this could be something to be discussed. I know there's a lot of talks, and but what is the alternative? Someone has a need, pain management, and they want to get a little bit of a treatment, but they just have to pay for it. So you mentioned dispensaries, and so these are self-based. I'm assuming people have to pay for this. For these products.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the situation we're at, and that's primarily so. Yes, these products will have to be paid out of pocket. There are a lot of discounts that are being promoted by dispensaries. My former dispensary provides a nice deep discount on for veterans and for seniors and those that that are on access programs. So trying to make it a little more affordable, because the process is relatively expensive,
Especially if it's a long-term type of treatment, right?
Yeah.
It adds up.
Yeah, it could add up for sure. So I think it's imperative that the healthcare system, the insurance markets, look into how do we strategize in making this much more affordable. Can we be able to participate? But the biggest barrier, of course, is the Schedule I status of medical cannabis. Legislation at the federal level really needs to be able to get in there and reschedule this drug to at least Schedule II, where
So where's the resistance? Is it, the pharma, or is it the different lobbies that are actually against it, or is there a strong lobby in the cannabis world that is actually trying to advocate, for, I guess, the devaluation from one status to status two?
Yeah. I think there's a litany of hiccups with this. There's a lot of competing interests. Whether it's the pharmaceutical space or the insurance space or the tobacco lobbying or the alcohol lobbyings or there might be even some religious institutions that just don't like cannabis just intrinsically. There's so many. Yeah. There's just a lot of factions involved. But I think if we could just squelch those ideologies and just realize that this is a medicine, and I think we could all agree that if it's a medicine that's helping individuals, patients, which one day maybe you or I, we should make it at least affordable for patients.
Well, again, things happen. A couple months ago, we had no issues, and now we have the coronavirus. People are quarantined. Some people actually in hospital beds, literally just getting respiratory, type of treatments, and maybe, there is an induced potential where these people can actually use some of these products today, in the current status? I don't know. Is there any, just because that's the topic of the hour, is there anything that can be, used in terms of the cannabis world into resolving what the coronavirus issues are, at least from a pain management?
Yeah, I think there could be symptom management for sure for patients. For example, pain. If there's chronic pain involved, you just want to be careful, especially when patients are ill to that capacity and they're really experiencing full-on symptoms. You want to address the acute symptoms first. If it's an infection, by all means, you need to get the antibiotics. You got to get the IV antibiotics in there. If it's pain, we have a little more leeway in what I guess. And granted, I'm not a physician, so you'll need to consult your provider.
Always.
But I think it's important to have what you need available. Especially in this circumstance where we want to build our immunity as much as we can.
That's the biggest barrier against the corona right now. Is the people that are healthier, ultimately they have a better shot at recovering if they got tested positive, and then building your immune system is the key element right now. And ultimately, even if people get I guess the infection with the corona, maybe boosting that.
You still want to build the immunity, Conserve your energy, of course, but especially as an allied health professional, one of the things that we really advocate is prevention. And preventive health is, and a lot of that is lifestyle. So get good sleep, get good exercise, get some fresh air and sun. That really helps the systems really, I think, optimize itself. Focus on your nutrition. Focus on supplementation. There are great supplements out there that could help boost your immune system. A lot of herbs out there, whether it's echinacea, turmeric. I mean, so it's
all spices and herbs.
Yeah, exactly.
In all different cultures.
Yes, of course.
There's a lot of discussion on all these types of healthy food and healthy new diets and things like that. A lot of it really aims at introducing some of these elements into the daily lives of everybody.
Yeah.
So not necessarily the sick, but everyone. I mean, the more you use some of these spices and herbs in your daily intake, the better and the healthier you would probably be.
Yeah.
And boost your immune system.
Yeah, and I think if you have a good running start with it, you'll have a better shot at combating a lot of these illnesses, because nature sometimes is not friendly, and you have to prep your body. It comes at you left and right.
The human body is to a degree resilient, and we've survived a lot of stuff over the centuries.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, we're going through a phase right now, and it's a tough time. And so before I move to the next question, the next question is, what forms of cannabis are used currently in the market? And the reason I'm asking because I've attended one of the seminars before, and I've seen a couple, but I'd like to share with the public as to what's available, and they're not all pills and not all different things. So
yeah. I mean, most people, what they think of when they think of cannabis is the actual flower itself.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's currently available in this market. And there's and right now the allowable way to consume flower is through vaporization. I guess you can create it in some sort of edible, but I don't think that's as economical. So vaporization is the best means, and for me as a healthcare provider, combusting, rolling it up in a joint or hitting it in a bong, I think is probably, for me, not recommended. I mean, it's abrasive to the lungs. You want to preserve the integrity of the lungs, but vaporization really reduces that. Reduces the contaminants and.
Like some sort of a device?
Yeah, it's a device. There's devices out there that will heat it up on a hot plate, at a level where they call it decarboxylation, which makes the actual components of the cannabis plant active for you to ingest and make it more bioavailable for you to reap its benefits. So you have the flower. You also have I guess you would call process forms through labs. One being tinctures. Most of the tinctures you see will be sublingual, so right under the tongue. You kind of let it absorb into the bloodstreams, and usually the onset in that method is usually about 15 to 20 minutes, I would say. And it's an effective way. You'll see that a lot with children. Many parents will do it under the tongue.
So there is a use for children as well.
Yeah. So one of the clinical indications on the medical side of things, and even with CBD in general, is autism is one, and then also
calms down.
Yep. And then also epileptic seizure disorders, which is really where I think the industry had a really watershed moment with Dr. Sanjay Gupta with his series on CNN, where he highlighted the effects and the benefits of cannabis for patients with seizure disorders, and really shed light on the power of cannabis and how it could reduce seizures. And they're still trying to uncover what the mechanism of action is and what specifically how it helps with seizures, but it looks like it's pretty promising. Mm-hmm.
So, ointments,
tinctures. There's also edible forms that are being produced in other states. We currently don't have it here, but you can create your own at home, which sometimes is helpful for children as well. Sometimes putting it in a cookie or a cake. Sometimes it's easier. Oftentimes you'll see these syringes that they can inject in certain products, food products, to deliver it to their kids to consume. There are pills as well. To me, I think that's a more palatable way for a lot of patients to use it. Everyone's used to having a pill, and it's very measured and very precise. So,
and do the effects vary? Like a pill versus,
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so if you inhale it, that experience is going to be a little different. First of all, the onset is much quicker, so you'll feel the experience. Of course, depending upon the dosage and the percentages of THC, you'll feel that relatively in minutes, essentially. As opposed to going through the GI system and digesting it through the gut. That could take, and this is where you got to be really careful, because you'll hear horror stories about people eating a cookie and then saying, I don't feel anything after 45 minutes. And they'll eat another cookie and then another one. And then in 3 hours later, they're gone. They're in another universe.
So you got to listen to the directions here.
Yeah, it's really important. Really important.
Right. Well, certainly, again, always consult with your primary care doctor.
Of course.
And let them prescribe you the right and follow exactly what they tell you.
Well, and the other thing when you eat it too is it's metabolized through the liver. So it somehow is converted into a very different version of THC that's much more powerful. So your experience is even more overwhelming, and much longer too. So you have to factor these things in. However, some people want that. They need kind of the enduring, long-lasting effects of cannabis. If you're going through radiation or chemo, guess what? You would want to, be able to have a nice, sustained, slow release of this medication.
So that leads us to the other. So I remember the last time I attended a presentation. There was a presence of a senior audience, and a lot of folks that actually even spoke at that particular session. And I remember they were recovering from surgeries, cancer, and other type of very serious conditions.
Yeah.
And they were very pleased to actually have used the actual products and the treatments. And they felt that it was the best thing that happened to them. Now, again, I don't have a testimonial right now with anybody from those folks, but certainly that was my experience when we attended the actual session. These were just public folks that walked in to listen into the actual lecture and learn just like we do today, doing here on the show. But at the same time, they were given their version of how the treatment or the use of cannabis helped them get through these very tough times for them and their families.
That's a great motivating factor for me too, is hearing personal stories and accounts of how, in particular, this plant has helped them improve their quality of life, Of course, what we promote is add on the therapy to improve your function, because that's really the name of the game in terms of therapeutic and physical medicine, is to help be able to do the things you do normally with increased facility, with greater comfort, with improved motion. So and really that's why we've kind of integrated all these disciplines, but also cannabis, particularly in the form of CBD, to help enhance the therapeutic outcome for our patients.
All right. So we've talked a lot about the cannabis and the integration, and certainly it's a long road, and hopefully it's a shorter one. At least the time before we can get to a point where it becomes very acceptable and very mainstream use across all the nation, not just in certain states. And even when the states that are approved, hopefully that gets to become a better alternative in a lot of ways. The next piece that I was going to talk in the interest of time was the acupuncture piece.
Okay.
And I know that's another kind of service that you guys provide.
Yes.
And personally, I mean, I have not even tried acupuncture personally, because again, I've always had a needle thing.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to actually learn about it, and share that with the public, because you mentioned a lot of traditional medicine, a lot of different things that are used, cupping, and so on and so forth. These are all things that actually work, and modern medicine today is actually getting more into it, and acupuncture was the biggest thing. Now, from an insurance angle, I've worked in the Asian markets and with the Asian markets for many years, and within the Asian market, it's the biggest benefit, and everybody wants it to be on their products and offerings. So, in the health plan is designating a product for a particular audience. They actually, especially if it's an Asian a market, we actually always have designed a piece of benefits that had acupuncture benefits attached to it. But again, not knowing what the benefits are is different than just knowing that people want it. Maybe today we'll have an actual breakdown of why the acupuncture works.
So there are, I guess, a couple explanations of the efficacy of acupuncture. Maybe we could talk a little bit about the background of acupuncture. Some people, I guess, don't know really what the origins are. And I'm not a historian by nature, but I think it's good to at least kind of have a general idea of so acupuncture, again, is part of is a modality within the world of traditional Chinese medicine. It was first suggested upon, or at least noted, in a medical book, a medical text, I think in the early 2000 BC era. So it was called the Yellow Emperor's Compendium of Internal Medicine, if I'm getting the title right. That was the first suggestion of acupuncture, these points that causes different improvement in symptoms or ailments. And then they really formalized these acupuncture points later. I think it was in the Han Dynasty, which was around the 10th or 12th century, I want to say. But it was still localized within Asia. It wasn't until the 15th and 16th century that this medicine modality began to spread, primarily due to missionaries. There was this one specific Jesuit missionary that went to China and did some work there and discovered this art form and brought it back into France and other parts of Europe. And then, again, the U.S., although we're relatively a new country compared to other parts of the world, but we were late to the game. I think America first began to take note of acupuncture. This was during President Nixon's administration. There was he visited China. I think he opened the doors to the U.S. To China, and there was a reporter who had to do who had a appendicitis and had to go through an emergency appendectomy, and he cited acupuncture I think the folklore is that they used acupuncture as an alternative to anesthesia, but I don't think he reported that. That might have been a myth, let's just say. Okay. But he was the one. This gentleman, James Reston, he reported it. I think it was in the New York Times about his experience with acupuncture, and from then, people got interested in it, and then the medical establishment began to investigate what is this. So that was kind of the stepping stone, and then that created an interest in what does acupuncture do? How's it how's it help you? What can it help with? And then from there, we started to establish schools, and then accredited institutions and accredited boards. And we're fortunate enough here to have actually actually not too far from here, right in Glenside, the only accredited acupuncture school here in Pennsylvania, which I graduated from. So that's the One Institute, in case you're wondering. So that's kind of the history of it. In regards to how, at least how I explain to my patients how this works, there are two dynamics. One is, especially as someone coming from physical therapy, I guess we have a little interruption there.
You want to get that?
Well, we're closed technically, so it's okay.
Oh.
That's what happens when you're live streaming.
It's all right. Like I said, the show is open. So.
Yeah, it's coffee side chat
and
here.
it will be edited on the main interface. It's okay.
But what I traditionally say to my patients is that if you have issues with a certain pain syndrome, especially soft tissue pain, oftentimes when you go to, let's say, a massage therapist, they're trying to kind of needle those knead those tight muscle bands and muscle knots. I don't know if you've ever had a massage where they hit a certain point, you're like, whoa, that one hurts, and then they'll press on it,
That's the best part of it.
That is, but you kind of grit your teeth and you say, okay, keep pressing, because you know that sustained pressure, which in physical therapy we call ischemic compression, helps relieve a lot of those tight muscle bands. Well, what acupuncture does is we can go directly into that area, and with a little bit of manipulation of the needle, help release it in a way. And you'll sometimes feel, I don't want to use the word pop, I think release is probably a better word, those restrictions. And with that, you'll get greater range of motion, decrease pain, much more, essentially less tightness and adhesions in those areas. So that's one mechanism in which acupuncture works. But then there's also kind of the philosophy behind acupuncture, where you have this, what we call an energetic model, and this word qi, which is kind of in mainstream medicine, sometimes looked down upon, because it's a term that is a little too woo-woo for traditional mainstream allopathic medicine. But in the world of Chinese medicine, it applies to us who practice this art form, because we realize that our bodies are full of energy, and sometimes these flow of energy, which flows through these channels called meridians in the world of acupuncture. Sometimes there's blockages in those qi, and with that blockage, oftentimes will manifest as pain, inflammation, swelling, diseases, and the idea of acupuncture is help to kind of, like a dam, releasing a dam, help release those blockages and help, again, using the word homeostasis, come back to equilibrium, come back to balance.
All right. Well, that was very enlightening about the acupuncture, and at least gives us a little indicator. So, in the interest of time for the live broadcast,
yes,
and we get a little bit of disruption there. Just want to wrap it up.
Yeah.
We got a couple more minutes for the live, and we have plenty for actually the later on version of the show.
Of course.
But you usually have patients that are come in, and not necessarily just from an Oriental background, but also for just regular mainstream Americans come in for treatment, whether it's therapy, whether for the CBD, or whether for the acupuncture. Is that an actual statement? Does that add up? Or?
Oh yeah. We service the entire community of all ages, of all ethnic backgrounds, of all socioeconomic statuses, I think it's a testament to where we live. We live in a very diverse community, and I have a very diverse staff. We have Koreans and Chinese staff members, Spanish-speaking individuals. My partner who is Jewish. This is a woman's-owned company, a majority women's-owned company. So, I think it's important for us to be able to service no matter who you are and where you are in your life.
So for the live broadcast, we're coming to an end on that, and so if you're watching live, thank you, and we will be replaying the actual segment live. Well, not live, but we'll be playing back as a report, and it will be on the channel, on the station, and the website. So stay tuned. But if you want to get your physical therapy, your acupuncture, and also your treatment and the CBD products, and Reboot is the place.
Yeah, look us up on rebootiwc.com, our website, and you can learn a little more about us.
What was again?
Reboot IWC for Integrative Wellness Center. Rebootiwc.com.
All right, and look for Steve-O. And thank you for watching the actual program on the iHealth channel and listening on the iHealth Radio. We will continue on the iHealth Radio right now, and that's for the live broadcast. Thank you very much, and you can catch the extended version of this show later on. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye. We're still on?
Yeah.
This we can cut and edit. So.
Yeah.
That was great, man.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that.
I think we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
And,
it was smooth, very smooth.
Yeah, we when you did the presentation last time we attended, it was limited and it was just formatted.
Yeah.
This was more of an open. I think more people will have the opportunity
At one point I went to fix the lights because it was so bright, and the camera switched on me.
Switch what? It turned?
On my side, yeah.
Oh really? Oh, so yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
You get your feet in there, so now people know we were there. But I think there might be an issue with the feet, because I think you might have read it, horizontally. So, but we'll edit it here, and I'll fix that one.
Yeah. Let me know when it's ready, and then I'll upload it into our Facebook site.
Yeah, I'm gonna set you up. Well, that's his partner's program. So I'll set it up, return it, send you that version, but then I'll give you the more, because that's the more professional. See, I can do this live, but with the box, but I have to be in the internet.
Yeah.
Live.
Yeah.
And then I get you a better, broadcast. But that's why I do this.
Yeah.
From the studio, I have it, linked into, a full.
When do you think you'll have it all edited and ready to publish?
I would probably have it by the end of the day, if not.
Oh, really? That quickly? Okay, well, then.
Once I get to maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just because I'll play on it tonight. I mean,
no
it doesn't
problem.
take much.
Doesn't take much.
I just do all my little stuff, for the show.
Yeah, because once you have that set, I'll just upload
you have it post it as your videos, and you can have it playing on your TVs.
If you want to.
Yeah, I'm saying, but it's like I said, right now it's recording, so this portion of it, stuff. But any advice that you'd like, to add, that can actually keep it on the video.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm just gonna,
So when you, some of the things I'm thinking of is like, as we're talking, in order to, if you want, you can, especially the visual component of it, is as we're talking, you put a shout out to the sign. Shout out there.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Well,
and all they're hearing is our voices, but they have other visuals.
No, so what I'll do now, once I get the actual, we're finished, I'm going to do shots of the studio. I mean, the office, the signs, the whole thing, maybe that little character there.
Of course.
So those will be.
Those are the type of things. Yeah, that makes that feels.
You can't do much about it, but the other ones I can play with.
I like
can
that.
Add more.
Yeah.
If you have brochures, I can actually take content. Or if you have something that's digital, I can actually play it so people can read.
Oh, I'll send you something.
So this way I can add more content and really make it a full, report.
Yeah.
Again, the live component is just cool because people can actually engage.
That's true.
And
maybe next time we could have questions. That would be fun.
I could do that. I mean, again,
next time.
This is the first time.
Yeah.
We can do
one
this.
of many.
One of many. I think as people get to know the channel, you know,
Yeah.
we can do more of these.
Yeah.
So people will know, and
Yeah.
I think people tend to forget.
Yeah.
And every now and then you have to
You
refresh
do.
the mind.
You do.
And like, hey,
Uh-huh.
maybe I have better circumstances
Yeah.
because right now the streets are empty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's scared.
Yeah.
And so again, we're still recording, and you know, some of this I think we can still, you know,
Yeah.
keep on the footage. But anything that you would like to add
Yeah.
at this point, you know, in terms of, you know, just the services or the what you have here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me just go down the list of services just to reiterate. So we do traditional rehab services, physical therapy. We used to do occupational therapy, but that just wasn't viable for us. We also have your chiropractic services. We have two wonderful chiropractors in our office. One is my partner, Dr. Mong Shang, and then Dr. Phoebe. I've had a couple treatments from her, and boy, is it wonderful. I mean, it's so refreshing.
Sign me up.
Yes, I mean, to get adjusted by her and her to do some manual soft tissue work, you just feel golden afterwards. We have currently only one acupuncturist, just myself. We did have Dr. Li Zhong, but unfortunately he moved on, and we are looking to hire another acupuncturist currently. We have a physical therapist assistant, Waleska Jones. She's our Spanish-speaking employee, and then a wonderful administrative staff. And of course I can't forget my other partner, Felicia Greenfield Blau, who she's special because and we're all special, but especially her. She works with a very special patient population. She's extremely dedicated to them, and that's the breast cancer world. Wow. So one of our offices is in Jefferson within the Wills Eye building, and we work closely in conjunction with the plastic surgery team at Jefferson, and we see all their patients post-op, breast reconstruction, trunk reconstruction, and flat repairs. So very, very high-level stuff, and she works diligently with them to kind of work on posture and to regain mobility. So she does wonderful work there. I should also mention, besides the clinic here that we're taping at in Elkins Park, we also have another clinic in Chinatown, right on Cherry Street. So
Been to know.
yeah. So it's a little smaller, but you know, it's a lot homier too as well, and it's set up I think in a way where when people come in, they're like, oh, this is very nice, you know. Mm-hmm.
So for the PT and for the acupuncture, I mean, pretty much insurance does cover that, right?
Yeah.
Also third party.
Well, good news is that for acupuncture, Medicare is planning to cover it, which is a huge boost for the industry. I mean, once you get Medicare on board, usually everyone else follows.
It's a supplemental benefit, you know, with health plans and Medicare Advantage, but it's not mainstream Medicare now.
It is going to be.
Yeah,
yes,
so
that's huge.
Big change.
That is
a lot
huge.
of changes are happening to Medicare.
Yeah.
We'll, in later shows, you know, we'll keep you posted as to what those changes will be, but definitely acupuncture is on the list.
And we'll find out what the reimbursement rate is. You know, I know the community is really interested to find out, and as a patient, you'd be interested to see what the copays are. You know, that's always kind of in people's minds, but just to have it as a reimbursed service, that's big news.
I think a lot of that will start coming up by the summer. We will know more about it because at that point, you know, all the 2021 benefits are actually clear and available, and all the guidance is out, and all the health plans that do Medicare managed care will have all that. Plus, you know, anybody that is on fee-for-service Medicare or urgent Medicare will have the opportunity to actually know what their copay is, and if it's an outpatient, I mean, again, we don't know how it's going to play, but we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. I mean, that's on everyone's mind and curiosity. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Steve, thank you very much for having us. It was a true pleasure being here.
We'll do an air pound in these day and age.
we'll do this, we'll do that. We do all the moves, you know, that we're compliant.
The social distancing, I
we're
understand.
compliant. We actually have not touched, you know, since we came to the studio. And, you know, we had hand sanitizer, so we did all the stuff by the book. Again, for those that are watching, you know, again, we have to follow those guidances and make sure that we're washing our hands, 20 seconds, warm water, keep 4 or 6 feet apart from anybody else. If you don't have to travel anywhere, don't. If you're just gonna go somewhere, make sure you keep your distances. So again, just follow this. The least you know, contact with others, the more we will probably reduce the risk of, you know, infection and spread of the disease, of the coronavirus, and ultimately, hopefully, you know, this will be water under the bridge in no time.
Hoping.
And life goes back to normal, and we go back to our businesses, and you know, all restaurants and everything that is public is open. We go back to concerts and movies. I mean, we miss our movies. Netflix is doing good right now.
They are doing well. Yes.
We'll learn all the. If you're on the internet, that's it. But you know, but we'll you know, just again, it's a message from us, Reboot and the iHealth channel, and you know, just again, if you're watching and when you watch this, you know, stay healthy, stay safe, and thank you for watching us. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Fantastic, man. One of many, I think.
You like